There was also a doorway in the side walls of the gates. That doorway led into a room where the priest washed the sacrifices. There were 2 tables on each side of the door of this porch. The animals for the burnt offerings, the sin offerings, and the guilt offerings were killed on these tables. There were also 2 tables on each side of the door of the outside wall of this porch. So there were 4 tables on the inside wall and 4 tables on the outside wall. 8 tables that the priests used when they killed the animals for sacrifices. There were also 4 tables made from cut stone for the burnt offerings. These tables were 1.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1 cubit high. On these tables, the priests put their tools that they used to kill the animals for the burnt offerings and other sacrifices. There were meat hooks 3 inches long on all the walls in this area. The meat of the offerings was put on the tables. There were 2 rooms in the inner courtyard. One was by the north gate facing south. The other room was by the south gate facing north. The man said to me, "The room that looks to the south is for the priests who are on duty and serving in the temple area. But the room that looks to the north is for the priests who are on duty and serving at the altar. The priests are from the tribe of Levi, but the priests in the second group are the descendants of Zadok. They are the only people who can carry the sacrifices to the altar to serve the Lord." The man measured the inner courtyard. The courtyard was a perfect square. It was 100 cubits long and 100 cubits wide. The altar was in front of the temple. Then the man led me to the porch of the temple and measured the walls on either side of the porch. Each side wall was 5 cubits thick and 3 cubits wide. The opening between them was 14 cubits. The porch was 20 cubits wide and 12 cubits long. 10 steps went up to the porch. There were 2 columns for the walls on either side of the porch, one at each wall. Then the man led me into the holy place. He measured the walls on either side of the room. The side walls were 6 cubits thick on each side. The door was 10 cubits wide. The sides of the doorway were 5 cubits on each side. He measured that room. It was 40 cubits long and 20 cubits wide. Then the man went into the last room. He measured the walls on either side of the doorway. Each side wall was 2 cubits thick and 7 cubits wide. The doorway was 6 cubits wide. Then he measured the length of the room. It was 20 cubits long and 20 cubits wide. He said to me, "This is the most holy place." Then the man measured the wall of the temple. It was 6 cubits thick. There were side rooms all around the temple. They were 4 cubits wide. The side rooms were on 3 different floors, one above the other. There were 30 rooms on each floor. The wall of the temple was built with ledges. The side rooms rested on these ledges, but were not connected to the temple wall itself. Each floor of the side rooms around the temple was wider than the floor below. The walls of the rooms around the temple became narrower the higher they went, so that the rooms on the top floors were wider. A stairway went up from the lowest floor to the highest floor through the middle floor. I also saw that the temple had a raised base all the way around it. It was a foundation for the side rooms, and it was a full ruler high. The outer wall of the side rooms was 5 cubits thick. There was an open area between the side rooms of the temple and the priest rooms. It was 20 cubits wide and went all the way around the temple. The doors of the side rooms opened onto the raised base. There was 1 entrance on the north side and 1 entrance on the south side. The raised base was 5 cubits wide all around. There was a building in this restricted area west of the temple. The building was 70 cubits wide and 90 cubits long. The wall of the building was 5 cubits thick all around. Then the man measured the temple. The temple was 100 cubits long. The restricted area, including the building and its walls, was also 100 cubits long. The restricted area on the east side, in front of the temple, was 100 cubits long. The man measured the length of the building in the restricted area at the rear of the temple. It was 100 cubits from one wall to the other wall. The most holy place, the holy place, and the porch by the courtyard had wood paneling on all the walls. All the windows and doors had wood trim around them. By the doorway, The temple had wood paneling from the floor up to the windows and up to the part of the wall over the doorway. On all the walls in the inner room and the outer room of the temple were carvings of cherub angels and palm trees. A palm tree was between each cherub angel. Every cherub angel had 2 faces. One face was a man's face looking toward the palm tree on one side. The other face was a lion's face looking toward the palm tree on the other side. They were carved all around on the temple. From the floor to the area above the door, cherub angels and palm trees were carved on all walls of the holy place. The walls on either side of the holy place were square. In front of the most holy place, there was something that looked like an altar made from wood. It was 3 cubits high and 2 cubits long. Its corners, its base, and its sides were wood. The man said to me, "This is the table that is before the Lord." Both the holy place and the most holy place had a double door. Each of the doors was made from 2 smaller doors. Each door was really 2 swinging doors. Also, cherub angels and palm trees were carved on the doors of the holy place. They were like those carved on the walls. There was a wood roof over the front of the porch. There were windows with frames around them and palm trees on the walls on both sides of the porch, on the roof over the porch, and on the rooms around the temple. Then the man led me through the north gate, out into the outer courtyard. He led me to a building with many rooms that was west of the restricted area in the building on the north side. This building was 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide. People entered it from the courtyard on the north side. The building was 3 stories tall and had balconies. The 20-cubit inner courtyard was between the building and the temple. On the other side, the rooms faced the pavement of the outer courtyard. There was a path 10 cubits wide and 100 cubits long, running along the south side of the building, even though the entrance was on the north side. Since this building was 3 stories tall and did not have columns like those columns of the outer courtyards, the top rooms were further back than the rooms on the middle and bottom floors. The top floor was narrower than the middle floor, which was narrower than the bottom floor because the balconies used this space. There was a wall outside that was parallel to the rooms and ran along the outer courtyard. It ran in front of the rooms for 50 cubits. The row of rooms that ran along the outer courtyard was 50 cubits long, although the total length of the building, as on the temple side, was 100 cubits long. The entrance was below these rooms at the east end of the building, so that people could enter from the outer courtyard. The entrance was at the start of the wall beside the courtyard. There were rooms on the south side, by the restricted area, in the other building. These rooms had a path in front of them. They were like the rooms on the north side. They had the same length and width and the same kind of doors. The entrance to the lower rooms was at the east end of the building, so that people could enter from the open end of the path by the wall. The man said to me, "The north rooms and south rooms across from the restricted area are holy. These rooms are for the priests who offered the sacrifices to the Lord. That is where the priests will put the most holy offerings and eat them. That is because that place is holy. The most holy offerings are the grain offerings, the sin offerings, and the guilt offerings. The priests who enter the holy area must leave their serving clothes in that holy place before they go out into the outer courtyard, because these clothes are holy. If a priest wants to go to the part of the temple where the other people are, he must go to those rooms and put on other clothes." The man had finished measuring inside the temple area. Then he brought me out through the east gate and measured all around the area. He measured the east side with a ruler. It was 500 cubits long. He measured the north side. It was 500 cubits long. He measured the south side. It was 500 cubits long. He went around to the west side and measured it. It was 500 cubits long. He measured the 4 walls that went all the way around the temple. The wall was 500 cubits long and 500 cubits wide. It separated the holy area from the area that is not holy. The man led me to the east gate. There, the glory of the God of Israel came from the east. God's voice was loud, like the sound of the sea. The ground was bright with light from the glory of God. The vision that I saw was like a vision I saw by the Kiwico Canal. I bowed with my face to the ground. The glory of the Lord came into the temple through the east gate. Then the Spirit picked me up and brought me into the inner courtyard. The glory of the Lord filled the temple. I heard someone speaking to me from inside the temple. The man was still standing beside me. The voice from the temple said to me, "Son of man, this is the place with my throne and footstool. I will live in this place among the people of Israel forever. The family of Israel will not ruin my holy name again. The kings and their people will not bring shame to my name by committing sexual sins or by burying the dead bodies of their kings in this place. They will not bring shame to my name by putting their threshold next to my threshold and their doorpost next to my doorpost. In the past, only a wall separated them from me, so they brought shame to my name every time they sinned and did those terrible things. That is why I became angry and destroyed them. Now let them take their sexual sins and their dead bodies of their kings far away from me. Then I will live among them forever. Now, Son of man, tell the family of Israel about the temple. Then, when they learn about the plans for the temple, they will be ashamed of their sins. And they will be ashamed of all the bad things they have done. Let them know the design of the temple. Let them know how it should be built, where the entrances and exits are, and all the designs on it. Teach them about all its rules and all its laws. Write these things for everyone to see, so that they can obey the laws and rules for the temple. This is the law of the temple. The whole area surrounding it, on top of the mountain, is most holy. This is the law of the temple.